Calling the meeting to order.
Good evening, everybody. It's good to see everybody.
Remember to turn off your phones.
Stand up for the pledge.
Please stand up for the pledge.
Do this first,
Lord, as we gather tonight, we ask you to open our hearts and minds to lead our city with wisdom and compassion. Help us always to remember those who are less fortunate than us and those who rely on us to make sound decisions on their behalf. Help us to be truly grateful for those gifts we often take for granted, and to use these gifts for the common good of all people. We pray these things together as one community. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, you say, call the police chief for the day. Gregory Baym to the podium. Say, Gregory Baym is the police chief for the day. Please come to the podium.
Gregory Baym, as police chief of the day, come to the podium. With appreciation to Gregory Baym for his service to the City of Temple Terrace Police Department by serving as police chief for the day on April 22nd, 2022.
What is his name? Gregory.
Smile, Gregory. Perfect.
We have a parent too?
Yes.
Mayor for the day's mom. Huh? Mayor for the day's mom.
Mom wants to be in this one too. Hand him his certificate again. Oh, there we go. Good.
Now you just do the same thing for Dominic. Call him up.
Dominic Rodriguez, as fire chief for the day, please come to the podium. With appreciation to Dominic Rodriguez for his service to the City of Temple Terrace Fire Department by serving as fire chief for the day on April 21st, 2026.
Parents? Oh my goodness, now I understand. Good, how are you? So, last but not least, there is one missing, and this is to our mayor for the day, Camilla Jamie. And Camilla has been here with me today and some of our staff and has done, as you can see, a tremendous job. This is, I think, a very sharp fifth grader here going into sixth grade. And so for those of you who may not understand what's going on, I guess maybe I should have explained a little bit at the beginning so the city doesn't think that we're being overtaken by Corpus Christi. So this year, Corpus Christi Catholic School approached the city and asked us if we would be willing to donate a police chief, fire chief, and the mayor for the day for them to auction off at their fundraising gala. And so we did. I was willing to do it, and thank goodness the fire chief and the police chief. And I have to tell you that I was very nervous because the fire department, the fire chief went first. And I was looking at the pictures of the fire chief the day for, fire chief for a day, and he's driving a fire truck, and they're climbing ladders, and they're like, I don't have any of that. And then, of course, the police chief's not going to be outdone by the fire chief, so they got a uniform, and they had the SWAT. I mean, it's just all the stuff. And of course, I call our marketing director, Lori Hayes, who really is the person that put this together. Thank you, Lori. And I says, you have to really come up with something because I can't fail this. The mayor's office not nearly as exciting. So thanks to Lori, she put together, I hope, what was a good day. And so I would like to read this. This is a proclamation. It says, whereas in support of Corpus Christi Catholic School Gala for Giving event on March 19th, City of Temple Terrace donated the opportunity for a student to serve as honorary mayor for a day. Whereas Camilla Jamie was gifted the opportunity by her parents or mothers here. And whereas Mayor Andy Ross agreed to share his authority, which is very small. We talked about that. By the time I share it, I've got none, right? And so I shared my authority as mayor of the City of Temple Terrace with Miss Jamie on a temporary basis today. And whereas Miss Jamie has performed a survey of the city by water, we did go and look at the river. She learned about our style of government. She's a very smart, and social studies is one of her favorite subjects. And so we talked about a lot of things about the government and the civics. She's interviewed some of our directors. She's been apprised of their duties and responsibilities. And she authorized the purchase of pizza because I wouldn't do that. I'm kind of frugal like that. And so, therefore, I, Andy Ross, by the authority vested in me as the mayor of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, do hereby proclaim Camilla Jamie as honorary mayor for a day on May 17th, 2022. And so, you get to keep this, and let's go down and get a picture.
You just want to leave it?
Okay, are the other two kids still here? Yes. Can they come up too? And we'll do all the kids.
Yes.
Oh.
All three together.
One up, Chief.
He seems so reluctant, but he's got the greatest smile.
You can do it, Chief.
Come on, Gregory, one more great smile. There it is.
There you go.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, yeah, take your name tag. definitely. It is a school night. Good job. Good job, Andy.
I'd like to thank everybody for their patience, and we took about 10 minutes for all that, but we raised a good chunk of money for the school, and so I appreciate your indulgence. So the next item of business is National Police Week proclamation. The real permanent police chief would approach the podium, please. Welcome, Chief. And this proclamation reads, whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which May 15th falls as the National Police Week. And whereas 458 police officers in the United States lost their lives in the line of duty last year, 301 of which were lost as a direct result of duty-related contraction of the COVID-19 virus. Preliminary 2022 reports as of April the 4th, non-inclusive of those lost due to COVID, indicate that 83 police officers throughout the United States have already this year, 83, ladies and gentlemen, lost their lives in the line of duty. I remember when 83 was a high year for the entire year, and we've achieved that already at the beginning of April. That's not a good number. Whereas the Temple Terrace police officers play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens of the city of Temple Terrace, Temple Terrace police officers unwaveringly serve all people, safeguarding lives and property, protecting our community against violence and disorder, the innocent against deception, and the weak against oppression and intimidation. And whereas every time an officer falls, our communities lose so much more than a public servant. We lose a friend, a family member, a loved one, but most of all, we lose a hero who, at a moment's notice, was willing to sacrifice everything to keep us safe. Now, therefore, I, Andrew Ross, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Temple Terrace, do hereby proclaim the week of May 15th through 21, 2022 as National Police Week. Chief, would you like to say a few words?
I would. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Council. Sadly, I have to report an update to those numbers. I checked this morning. 11 more officers have died in the line of duty since I created that, bringing the total number of law enforcement officers that have died thus far to 94 across our land. National Police Week, as you know, for us, is a time of sorrow and remembrance, of vulnerability and reflection, but also of encouragement and strengthening of our commitment and that of our loved ones to a purpose and a profession far greater than any one individual. More so than ever before, law enforcement officers across our land continue to be vilified, disrespected, scrutinized, and attacked at an alarming rate simply because of the uniform they wear. 103 ambush-style attacks against law enforcement officers occurred last year, resulting in 130 officers being shot. Not shot at, shot. 30 of those law enforcement officers were killed as a result. Murders of police officers rose by 60% last year. 2021 marked the highest number of law enforcement officers intentionally killed in the line of duty since 2001. Overall, of those numbers, 73 officers died last year as a result of felonious killings, with 55 of those being directly related to gunfire. Having the courage to wear their badge shouldn't make you a target for these types of attacks, certainly not in the United States of America. As guardians of public safety and the very fabric of what of what makes America so great, law enforcement officers are called upon to risk their lives every day for the safety and protection of people they have never even met, to sacrifice themselves at times as if for family, for those who, if not for the sake of personal crises in their lives, might rather ridicule and demean our efforts, and in some cases, even our very existence. Thankfully, the men and women of your police department serve in a city where our citizens and our business leaders unwaveringly support this police department. Thankfully, we serve a council who has always, since I've been here, always had the faith and confidence and support for its law enforcement officers. I promise you, as I do when we bring new officers in, I promise our citizens and our community as a whole that they can rely on us, that they can depend on us, and that we will always be ready to answer the call when that call is received. Thank you for recognizing us, Mr. Mayor. And if I could just have one more moment, just a moment of silence for those 94 officers that have been lost thus far and for their families, because they may have ended the tour of duty, but those 94 families never will. Just a moment of silence, please. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce our Assistant Fire Chief, Shane Salmon. Welcome.
Thank you.
Whereas this year's National EMS Week's theme is EMS, Rising to the Challenge, and whereas the emergency medical services is a vital public service, the members of the Temple Terrace Fire/EMS responders provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. And whereas the emergency medical services system consists of emergency physicians, medical directors, emergency nurses, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, firefighters, educators, administrators, and others. And whereas the EMT/paramedics engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical service providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week. Now therefore I, Andrew Ross, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Temple Terrace, Florida, do hereby proclaim May 15th through 21, 2022 as Emergency Medical Services Week. Chief, would you like to say a few words?
I'll just take just a second. On behalf of the fire chief and all the men and women, EMTs and paramedics for the Temple Terrace Fire Department, thank you for recognizing that. For obvious reasons, EMS services for the last 2 years has been unlike anything we've ever seen. And so the Temple Terrace Fire Department has stood fast. They stood committed over these last 2 years and put forth a lot of effort, time, compassion, and our department has served the city well. So thank you for taking the time to recognize us.
Thank you, Chief. one more. Is Public Works Utilities Director Troy Tinch and Public Works Director of Operations Ray LeBlanc. If you would approach the podium, please, gentlemen. It's a pleasure to see the two of you when we're not spending money.
Meeting's not over yet.
Usually it's expensive when you.
a surprise announcement.
Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Temple Terrace. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated effort of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens and civic leaders in Temple Terrace to gain knowledge of and to maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2022 marks the 62nd Annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association and the Canadian Public Works Association. I now, therefore, I now, as Andrew Ross, do hereby designate the week of May 15th through 21st, 2022 as National Public Works Week. Would you like to say a few words?
I would actually, obviously a tough act to follow with, you know, the fire department and police department. Of course, I'm talking about the little guys, not. But all kidding aside, it really appreciate you guys taking this time to draw attention to some of the unsung heroes, if you will. We certainly don't get the accolades that are deserved by the fire department and by the police department, but we are out there every day and we are getting things done. And it is an honor to be part of that group. I've always said that. I said it last year and I'll say it again. Those guys, those men and women, they make us look good, and I'm proud to be part of that staff. So thank you for that. I know the water department, the sewer department, the water treatment plant, the engineering department, they all thank you for for taking this opportunity to thank us.
Mr. LeBlanc?
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
Yeah, the operations side is always been grateful for your past support and continued support. It's been about the people since I've been here, and one of the things that make the people what they are is, and I said it 18, 20 years ago, the service culture that the city nurtures. You have to do good. If you don't, somebody will. We have an amazing fleet staff. I can't leave Eddie Davis out of the mix. He's been here, I think I was 12 when he came to work here. You figure that out. They take care of over 200 vehicles, police vehicles. When you hear the sirens, when you hear that, they're running. But in short, we thank you for everything in the past and look forward to an amazing future.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
You should have asked him for some money.
You gotta scoot over closer to Ray. I know that's hard for you, but.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, I'm going to stay up here for a while now. Our next item of business is the Drive Smart Electric Vehicle Pilot Program, presentation by Tampa Electric Company, Mr. Kenneth Hernandez, who's a business development manager for TECO. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. All right, if we can bring the slides up, please. So thank you again, Mr. Mayor, and appreciate the opportunity to be here on behalf of Tampa Electric to speak with you and council regarding an opportunity that we see to work, for Tampa Electric to work with the city on establishing DC fast charging and level 2 charging at the redevelopment property that's up the street here. So I'd like to talk to you a little bit about that, give you a little bit of background on the reason why Tampa Electric is moving in this direction with this pilot program. And really at the end, it's about getting an initial nod from council on and continuing to pursue that opportunity. And like I said, we'll talk a little bit more about that. So to first go into a little bit about the trends and some of the things that we're seeing when it comes to electric transportation, I think that we can all see television commercials and that kind of thing, but we like to dig into the numbers a little bit. And from a market perspective in the state of Florida, we've got just over 125,000 vehicles that are in the state of Florida at this time. And Florida is really leading the Southeast when it comes to vehicle adoption. And we are really second or third. Normally we bounce around between those two when it comes to where we rank as far as the number of EV sales for the state of Florida compared to the rest of the country. And usually that's just behind California. California it's going to be hard to catch them. But so I like to think of us as number one with the other 49 states. So we also have 54 models of EVs that are currently available in the state of Florida. When EVs first roll out in the market, they normally go to certain market segments, but Florida is leading again nationwide when it comes to number of EVs that are available. And part of that comes just from the commitments that we're seeing by some of the manufacturers. And I think that we've all seen some of those commitments when it comes to GM, Ford, and Volvo, Mercedes-Benz, and others that are making long-term commitments to really decarbonize their fleet by 2030, 2040. And one particular market indicator that we see it's a big impetus for the market is the light-duty truck, pickup truck market. It's been long anticipated, and now we see the Ford F-150 Lightning and the GM Silverado EV that's coming to market as well. That's another indicator of how robust the EV market is going to be. Continuing on with some of those trends, the commercial vehicle market segment is one that continues to grow as well. We see long-term and very robust commitments from major corporations like Amazon, FedEx, UPS, and others. We know that local here fleets that are looking to electrify, including Tampa International Airport, as well as Port Tampa Bay, that is looking to explore those opportunities as well. We also see a large influx of federal funding that's going to be coming to the state of Florida through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. The state of Florida is actually in the process, the Department of Transportation at the state level is putting together a plan for the state on how they plan on spending and utilizing that funding, and that is due to the state by August 1st, so again, another milestone. And just these charts that you can see here is just as far as the market segment that electric vehicles is going to have, that's split up by the different drivetrains, whether it's internal combustion engine, plug-in hybrid, or battery electric vehicles, which battery electric are the ones that are all electric, so there is no other backup, just the battery. And you could see that in the long-term forecast, those battery electric vehicles, those all-electric vehicles, are the ones that are going to be making up the larger portion of the overall EV sales. And consumers are, they may not be necessarily looking to purchase an electric vehicle immediately, but things that are happening in the market, particularly with the volatility of fuel pricing, is really driving consumers to just be more aware that electric is an option when they do go purchase the next vehicle. The slide, or the graph that's over there on the right, was put together by the Energy Information Administration using Google data. And as fuel prices have increased, that indicates the number of searches for electric vehicles in Google. So you can see the sharp uptick that there's been here recently. Again, another indicator that individual consumers are looking to consider electrifying. And Florida is a leader, regional EV sales, and this is just through December of 2021. Quarterly EV sales, you can see the green line, which represents Florida. Very consistent, kind of slow and steady, but you can see the uptick that we've seen just since 2019 as far as EV sales by quarter in the state of Florida and how we rank compared to others in the Southeast. And Tampa Electric is part of our 10-year planning cycle. Every year, we do a new EV forecast based on not just actual EV registrations within the zip codes that we serve, but also ingesting some of that market data so that we can try to produce a robust forecast that we can kind of point to. And you can see just with the things that have happened in the past year, the red line represents where our forecast was last year. And the most recent forecast that we're seeing is in the blue line. Most adoption of technology takes what they call a hockey stick effect, that at some point it's slow and steady, and then it just, kind of skyrockets like, cell phones and, smartphones and the thing. So that is what we're seeing now when it comes to electric transportation, is kind of that hockey stick effect, and that's represented in our latest forecast. And this is just residential. This doesn't even include fleet projections. So with all of this, Tampa Electric we filed for and received approval from our regulatory commission for a pilot that would allow us to deploy charging stations across our service territory so that we can collect data, we can gather data on driver utilization, understand what the charging patterns are, be able to collect some of that data to help us forecast and plan for from a grid perspective. But we also see that through this pilot, this data collection would help any of our participating site hosts in being able to access that same data for long-term planning. So we filed for, like I said, and received approval last year. It is a 4-year pilot. And through that 4-year pilot, we will deploy 200 what we call level 2, which are 240-volt charging stations, similar to what you might see in your garage, across the service territory, and then up to 4 DC fast charging sites. And the DC fast chargers, those are kind of like those highway travel corridors, quick 30-minute kind of high-speed chargers, and we would be developing those as well. We're targeting 5 different market segments. Government and income qualified, I'll talk about here in just a moment, but also public retail, workplace, and then multi-unit dwellings, basically apartment complex, condominiums, and the like. For most of those, again, like I mentioned, I'll come back to the government here in a moment. For most of those, Tampa Electric's pilot, we will contribute $5,000 per port towards the installation. That includes hardware, software, and then any ongoing maintenance for the 4-year term of the pilot. For government and income qualified, which we see as 2 market segments that we really need to pay close attention to. One is because government serves the general public, and then income qualified because we know that there's disadvantaged communities that we want to be able to take advantage of these technologies as well. So for those 2 market segments in particular, there will be no cost. Tampa Electric will observe the full cost for the installation, and again, also take care of any ongoing maintenance over the 4-year term of the pilot. And I keep referring to the 4-year term because really the market is changing so much that we can't necessarily speak to what's going to happen in 4 years, like, if we all had a crystal ball. But what we do know is that we should learn enough over the next 4 years to allow us to go back to our regulators and say, here's what we've learned from the pilot, now here are the next steps. Tampa Electric may need to continue the pilot, maybe to collect additional data because we didn't collect enough during. Maybe we got everything that we need out of it and we can walk away from it. In that case, we would turn it over to the site host where we installed it, and it'll be theirs for them to continue on with. The other option may be that maybe during this pilot we see that there's a need or a benefit to the community for Tampa Electric to remain involved in the EV markets, EV charging market segment for the long term, and in which case we would develop some sort of long-term program that would follow that. Again, any of those options we would go back to our commission and we would have to get approval for. So what we're looking to propose with the city, and we've been working with Greg Polly and others on city staff, is again here at the corner of Bullard and 56th Street in the redevelopment area, there are parking spaces that the city, as you know, maintains ownership of, that we see an opportunity to be able to install not just one of the DC fast chargers, but also install up to 4 of the level 2 chargers, and they would all be side by side in concurrent parking spaces. So we would like to leverage those parking spaces again, and that would include all of that hardware as well as any of the associated utilities. We're going to need to bring in new electric service to serve this. Again, particularly with a high-powered DC fast charger, that is a dedicated service. We can't tie into existing facilities. That requires dedicated service, so we would need to bring that in as well. But again, all of that under Tampa Electric. And just as a representation of what those chargers may look like, on the left there is a level 2 charger, and it's pedestal mounted, and all the necessary protections and everything, whether it be wheel stops, bollards, and the like. And then on the right is a representation of a DC fast charger, so you can kind of get a feel for what the footprint might be within the parking area. And then also, and this is very preliminary, as the slide states, but we'll need to continue working through this process, but there would be an easement that would need to be created for us to bring in the utility service. Again, we're working with personnel in the city to determine exactly what that would look like. There's still additional work that needs to be done. We still need to bring contractors on site to be able to price the installation, develop the scope of work. But this is just a preliminary look at what that easement may look like. And again, so from proposed next steps, with City Council's, at least initial nod would be to continue this process to explore the opportunity to be able to work with the city in developing this site for EV charging, not just to serve the travelers along 56 and Bullard, but also any of the patrons that visit that shopping center. And all the good things that are happening there. So there's an agreement that has to be entered into, which we've provided an initial draft to the city that's under review. So we need to go through that process to review that, do some redlining and edits and some exchange on that. Again, we need to work on the site assessment and determine what exactly the easement requirements would be in the overall scope and cost. And then ultimately it would be to execute a site host agreement that we need as part of our process. And again, that would be after all of the necessary approvals and review. So still a bit of a process to work through, but we're hoping that we can capitalize on this opportunity with the city to be able to install some charging stations for the community. So with that, I would entertain any questions that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Councilmember Abel.
First of all, thank you for coming and making this presentation. This is an issue that is really important to me, so I'm really excited about this opportunity. The first question I had for you is, you said that for places that are not government or income qualified, Tampa Electric would contribute $5,000 toward, was it the installation that you said that they would contribute that toward?
It's actually the hardware and the installation, yes.
Okay. And do we have a figure for how much that costs you all beyond that $5,000?
Yeah, so we've actually, as part of this pilot program, is to learn what some of those things are. I will say that admittedly, there's no lack of impact and cost increases when it comes to material and labor for electricians. So that's part of what we're learning now. But we're right now, based on the 15 or so site assessments that we've done as part of this pilot, we're looking at a total cost of somewhere around $8,800 on average. So $5,000 of that per port, again, that Tampa Electric would pick up.
Okay, thank you. And my other question is, a lot of electric vehicle chargers in the area have like a pay-to-use sort of setup. And did you say that these would be something that people could just plug into without paying, or would it be something that requires some sort of membership or charge to?
No, good question, and that's one of the things that we cover in the agreement. So under our pilot, in order to try to minimize the variation in utilization from one charger to another, we have two options for how fees may be passed along to the driver. One is at no cost, so drivers would be able to utilize them at no cost. And not that it applies to this particular facility, but if there's parking fees or whatever that may be established, that is completely aside. But for utilization of the charger, it's either free to the driver or the option of using Tampa Electric's general service rate, which is basically the general commercial rate, to pass that along to the driver, as well as any associated fees. So we did that. One is a way to allow the site host to be able to recover costs, basically be made whole. But also, like I said, to give the option if you wanted to make it free, as kind of as an amenity. But I would imagine that most governments are going to choose to pass along some cost, to the drivers. So.
Okay, and my final question is, you mentioned what type of chargers you're going to have. One would be the 240 level 2, and one of them would be the fast charger.
Right.
And I'm wondering, different vehicles have different sort of proprietary type chargers that they use. For example, like Tesla has one that none of the other vehicles can use. Would these be ones that were specific for Teslas? Because in your picture you had a Tesla, or would it be something that would be more for the other market vehicles?
The Tesla just happened to be there, but no, these are not proprietary. So they are universal connectors that anyone would be able to use, including a Tesla driver. To your point, no one other than a Tesla can use a Tesla charger, but Teslas can use any of the chargers that are out there. So it's so they get the best of both worlds. So.
Okay, thank you. That's all for me.
Sure, thank you.
Vice Mayor Schisler.
Yes, thank you. Good presentation. Thank you for the information. Following up on the cost per unit, so a unit in general would be essentially $8,800 to install tax tag and title, right?
Correct.
Okay. Maintenance beyond that. Any idea what the studies would indicate or have indicated?
No, that's part of what we plan on learning. So
Okay,
this is
so
our
we still-
first foray.
That's a potential black hole that we don't know about.
But Tampa Electric is responsible for all of the maintenance.
Well, I understand that. Well, part of the initiative from this council is other locations, not just downtown. So, we're looking at, we have the library, we have the rec center, we have the Lightfoot Center, we have, various and sundry alternatives. You're not going to pay for those forever, and that's something that we have to be at least cognizant of. So just a thought in the back of your mind, as you're developing these costs, what's it going to be down the road? Because I think you said 4 years is the support program. What's it going to take for us to? Because we have a unit right next door to this building that I don't think has worked in 4 or 5 years, and it's just sitting there taking up space. Secondarily, and this is it's a good program, but I do have one question. People who own an EV pay no gasoline taxes. So something that I personally would be interested in seeing is how we're going to be able to effectively surcharge the rates that they're paying for the charges for the EV sessions, so that we can still maintain the roads. Okay.
Yeah, no, and it's
those cars are generally heavier than their internal combustion counterparts, and the roads still get torn up. And if we're just paying electricity, they're not contributing to the gasoline taxes and to the upkeep of the roads and so forth. So I'd like to, and just something in the back of your mind, how we can surcharge the charging rates so that we can push that money back to supplement the lost revenues from the lost gasoline taxes and help maintain our roads and so forth in the future. And again, I'm not talking for today. I'm talking for 5-10 years down the road, where this is going to be a major issue. Sure. And the only other question I had was, you have no clues to yet what the electricity rates are going to be.
So based on today's current rate for that general service rate,
Right.
it's somewhere around 12 cents per kilowatt hour.
Okay.
There is, depending on, again, we have to establish a new service
Right.
to be able to run there, which would likely be a demand rate. So it'll actually be a rate that's a little bit lower than the general service. Okay. So we recognize that, and there's actually an opportunity in that for there to be some net positive to the city when it comes to that exchange with what's being paid for electricity versus what's being passed along to drivers. So we expect that there probably would be some variance there, but it's around 12 cents.
And TECO's funding for this, is this coming from government grant monies, or is this being passed on to all the other TECO customers?
Yeah, this is under our rate base, which is why we had to go to the commission for approval. So it is something that we are using.
We're all paying for it anyway.
Pardon?
We're all paying for it anyway.
It's being spread out across
All right, all of our. Thank you. Good presentation. I appreciate it.
Sure thing.
Council members, other questions? Just clarify for me, I'm sure you said this clearly, but in my mind, I heard two different things, and I just need to clear it up. So this, moving forward on this project would be of no cost to the city?
Correct.
Okay. So the part of this that confused me was when we were talking about the cost of the electricity. I think you commented about it could be free or not free, and then you said something about the city might want to recoup some of them. And that's the part that confused me. So why would the city have any say in the pricing structure if we don't have any financial investment to begin with?
Well, really, it's just a mechanism of how we've developed the program. We want the site host to be able to have some level of control, even though Tampa Electric would be providing the funding for the city. As an example, the city may not want to set a precedence for free EV charging. So, which is a path that some cities and other governments have gone towards. So this would give the city an opportunity to be able to set a rate, not dictated by Tampa Electric, but again, with one of those two options for the city to be able to establish that fee to the driver. Now, the city would have an electric account because, as I mentioned, we're going to need to run a new service to that facility. So there's going to be a meter and an electric service under the city's name. But again, that's where the fee to the driver, you would be able to recover those electricity costs associated with that account.
Okay, I think I understand. So two remaining questions. One, and the Vice Mayor alluded to this, this is a move in the right direction, I think most of us agree. And Councilmember Abel first brought this up a long time ago, and so this has been something that we've been trying to move forward. What are the chances of expanding this? Because this is a good start. This will give us 4 or 5 parking spaces in the CRA, but we also have interest beyond this. The Family Rec Center gets a lot of in and out traffic. This building gets a lot of traffic. The library gets, those are 3 that come to mind. What are the chances of expanding this program to other locations?
Well, currently, there's a good opportunity to be able to do that. It really becomes a matter of timing. We need to be deployed by the end of this year. But we're more than happy to look at other properties that the city has that you're considering EV charging. And that's something we're more than happy to look at today.
Okay, and I'm not sure that this is a decision for tonight. I know you need a head nod from us, and I'm going to ask for one here in a second. But I do want to go on record as saying, and I don't know what the details are, when you guys get down in the weeds of actually creating a document, but personally, and I'm speaking personally, I don't know what the other council members feel like, I would not be in favor of this arrangement if it's no cost, because everything has a cost, it's just who's paying. And I don't think we should have, we're giving people fuel for their cars, it happens to be fuel in the form of electricity instead of gas, but nobody's putting gas in my car, and I don't think we should, whether it's the taxpayers or whether it's the other people who get Tampa Electric electricity, we're just spreading this cost out, and I just don't think, if you should have to pay for your electricity, just like other people pay for their gasoline or whatever. So, now, whether that revenue, I don't necessarily think the city needs to get wealthy over this. I mean, we're not trying to gouge people, but I'm not in favor of a free structure unless I'm overturned here or overridden, but I am personally in favor of going forward. I think this is a great idea. We thank you for coming. Excited to finally get this kind of moving forward. I know that Mr. Pauly's worked on it for a long time. And for the record, I want to point out that this originated with Councilmember Abel bringing this up to us over a year ago during the budget process last year. And so I want to thank you. It's taken a long time to get where you're trying to get, but thank you for bringing it up. So council members, what's your got a thumbs up here? Or?
Can I give you 2 thumbs up?
Go to the next step.
I'll give you 2. How about that?
What is the next step, Mr. Pauly? You guys get together and see what you can hammer out an form of agreement, or?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have currently received a draft copy of both the installation agreement as well as the subscription-based agreement. The agreement that we have is more geared towards a commercial host. And Ms. Shishone and Mr. Mueller have at least given that a first review and are working on that now to try to identify the areas that would need modification from a municipal government position. And then once we get that hammered out, we would reconnect with Mr. Hernandez's department and reconnect with their legal department, that we could put our legal team in connection with their legal team and hammer out those final details of those agreements. There's actually 2 different agreements.
So we'll have Mars ships before all this happens.
I hope not.
Sure.
I know personally, I would be more concerned, you guys take care of the legalese. I want to know what the numbers are. I want to know what's it going to cost, be able to, so we can project ourselves, if necessary, what it's going to be down the road, and potentially for the other locations within the city. To me, that's going to be an important facet. There's a lot of people who just, EV's great, but I'm paying for the roads and everything else. I think this is an issue that needs to be addressed also. And I do agree with the mayor. It can't be free. We got to figure out a way for the users to pay for it. And just as a point of reference, I think Mr. Chambers was a big proponent of this also in the beginning. So
I believe he was. Sorry.
It's.
Thank you.
I'll leave it at that, but I'm going to be interested in the numbers. If we can get those sooner rather than later, so that we don't have to try and digest those in open session, that'd be great. Thank you.
Very good, sir. Thank you for that. If I might add, from the beginning of our discussions, I've kind of been on the same track, understanding that we are municipal government.
Yeah.
And it is an amenity. I think it's a tremendous opportunity to bring a great amenity to that area. And based on the nature of what I've been working on, obviously we have been focused on the redevelopment area. There has been some discussions, very, very brief discussions of other locations, but there's an entire site study that goes behind trying to identify what makes an acceptable site. So it's not that those other sites have been completely discounted, it's just that all of our attention thus far has been focused on the slides that you saw earlier.
Very good. And I did not mean to slight Councilmember Chambers. He was a proponent of this idea also. Sorry, James. Council, are we good?
We're good.
We're in agreement? We're good.
Thank you so much.
Do you need anything else from us?
We just need that thumbs up, and I think we got it.
Okay, very good. And thank you, Mr. Hernandez, for coming. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, there's a slight adjustment to the agenda to try to allow our guests to get in and out quickly, as quick as possible. We have Mr. Colin Benziger and Associates. Well, Mr. Colin Benziger is here. His associates are not here, I don't think. And Mr. Benziger, you're here to speak to us about the recruitment of our new city manager.
That is correct.
Very good. Welcome, sir.
Well, thank you. And I believe I have on video conference platform my associate, Rick Connor. He's one of our senior vice presidents. And we always like to double team things if we can. I'll get most of the things, but he may pick up something I miss, and so on and so forth. And then down the road, if there comes a time when I can't come to a meeting, Rick can step in and he'll be on top of things. So what we'd like to do tonight is two things, I guess. First of all, one is to get some information from the council. And what we're particularly interested in is what makes Temple Terrace a great place to live, work, and play, raise a family. What challenges do you want the next city manager to address, if any, if there's anything in particular? What's your ideal candidate? What are the characteristics of the ideal candidate? And then the final thing is compensation. What do we want to pay this person? And we may address that later, or we may decide to, we do collect data on salaries from around the state, and we can, if you like, give you some comparisons so that you'll have an idea and be able to make a more informed, more informed decision on what you want to pay the person. And then the final thing is, if you have any questions for us about about our process and what we're going to do and the timeline and such. So, I don't know, by way of introduction, my name's Colin Benziger, and I'm the owner and principal of Colin Benziger and Associates. We've been in business, it's hard to believe, for me, frankly, for almost 25 years now. We started in Florida. I was a single dad with 2 kids, and I couldn't travel much. And once they got old enough, I started traveling, and we've now operated in, I think, 34 states around the country. And we're a nationwide recruiting firm for local government positions, primarily city managers, but we do department heads as well. Rick Connor, is Rick on? Can he speak? I may just have to introduce him. He's there. We worked this all out before the meeting, but he's muted?
Mr. Connor, we're told that you need to unmute yourself.
Oh, technology.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Rick, do you want to take a minute and introduce yourself?
I'm here.
Okay, do you want to take a minute and introduce yourself to the council?
I'm here.
I guess he can't hear us.
Is your microphone on?
Yeah.
I have. I have.
Yeah. Rick, can you introduce yourself? Can you introduce yourself?
I'm here.
Okay, do you want to take a minute and introduce? All right, Rick, I'll tell you what. I will introduce you, and you can just be here.
He is. I think there's a long delay there.
That's it.
Hello. Hello.
Can you introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah, wow. Long delay. I think that Mars prediction came true already.
I'm sure you know him, Mr.
Yeah, you
Benziger.
go
You
right
can tell
ahead.
us about him.
Speak for Rick. Rick has been with us for about 10 years, and I first met Rick as a candidate, when he retired, we brought him on board to help us with executive search. He's a professional engineer, I think in 3 states. He's been a city manager in at least 2 states. Just a very good judge of talent and someone that we value on our staff. So
Is that clear?
yes.
Yeah, that's obviously not going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brian, if you can help us to, can you remute him somehow so that?
We'll just go on.
Okay.
So first of all, you're all elected officials. You're all proud of Temple Terrace. What makes it a great place to live, work, and play, and raise a family? And I'll start with the mayor, I guess, or let the mayor pick a council.
Don't start with me. We always start down. Mr. Chambers, Councilmember Chambers.
Yeah, he's been here the longest, I think.
You don't have to go but
No,
just start down here.
Well, I read the sample brochure in your packet for us, and you already know a lot of it because you put it in the brochure. But certainly, what's great about Temple Terrace, first of all, it's a small city, even though we're 3rd largest in Hillsborough County. And we have a small city with a lot of dedicated, great citizens. And our government, since we are its own city, it's very responsive to the people. So that's first and foremost. And we have great amenities in our city. And I'm just talking about city services now. I'm not going to talk about trees or golf course or anything. But our city services, which we heard a lot about tonight with police, fire, public works, and of course leisure services, a lot of the opportunities there for our residents. They really value their recreation and stuff. And then again, our public spaces besides the rec center, the parks, our tree canopy, the Hillsborough River, everything around us is just beautiful, and that makes it nice to live here. We have good schools. We're working hard on our schools, and that's about it for now for me.
Vice Mayor?
Okay, well, having lived here for about 49 years now, I haven't been here as long as James, but it's just, there's no other place that myself or my family wish to live in. We've seen it grow through the years and expand, and a lot of it's a ditto to what James said. The neighborhoods, the residents, the houses, the flavor of the houses, the ages, from the 20s through the 50s through the 2020s. We have the best employees in the state. We have the best weather in the state. We have the river. We have the golf course. A lot of it's just, your brochure said most of it as it was. The rest of it's just personal anecdotal stories. So I think you have a good sense of what we are and who we are. I'm good.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Donahue?
Thank you, because I was going to run out of things to say. I mean, my goodness, we're starting to sound like a broken record. Well, during the pandemic, the Arts Council asked the citizens to help us show what they liked best about the city of Temple Terrace on a 5-inch by 5-inch piece of paper. And what we thought we might get was a little quilt that we could frame and hang up somewhere. Well, what we ended up with were two. One of them, my goodness, James, I think one is like 4 feet by 8 feet.
3 by 6 was.
The other one's 3 by 6. And the squares represented things that all of us know, but we had to be reminded by this collective practice. And it went from churches to restaurants, from parks to trash collection, to the river, to all the different things you like to see. But the theme, the overall theme, was that the community really gave it some thought. And so, to me, that's our strength. We have a community who really thinks about why they live here, and they appreciate what they have. And so the hundreds who made those little quilts, and I would encourage you to go to the Family Rec Center and look at them, because some of them are extremely detailed in their work. Some of them were crayon drawings by little kids, but they were not just something that somebody threw together. So if you're looking for a community, when I started with the Chamber of Commerce many years ago, one of our elder citizens said to me, you know, about Temple Terrace, if you don't know what you're doing, somebody else does. And I took that to heart, meaning, and I don't mean that they're nosy, I just mean they're aware and they're looking out for each other. So, you know, my favorite thing is the city workers, and they affect our day-to-day life. And so all of us can give you an elevator speech, but most of us can probably give you an actual lecture about what we think is so great about Temple Terrace. But thanks for asking.
Councilmember Abel?
Well, Temple Terrace is a really rich community in terms of its diversity and its opportunity. Where we're located, we have so many great opportunities. We're right by the University of South Florida, a major university. It's a quiet community amidst all of Tampa and the sprawling, you know, everything else around us. We have a lot of opportunities to walk and bike, and that's going to get even better. We have a lot of, we're kind of a plucky little community. We have a bunch of engaged citizens. We hold our own as the third largest, otherwise known as the smallest, in the area. And yeah, it's just a really nice place to raise kids, and we're getting younger as a community. For a while, this was kind of the place to be to raise a family, and then those families grew up, but stayed. And now we have an influx of younger families coming in with little kids. So that's sort of bringing some sort of renaissance into the city, I think. And I think that's going to continue to happen going forward.
Thank you. So you've heard most of it. A lot of what I'm going to say is repetitious, but I don't want to lose track of our location, and we can't take credit for that. But our location is fantastic, and when I bring people to Temple Terrace, which I do a lot, and to try to get them to relocate their businesses here, or I take them, I drive them around our golf course community. I always take them to our rec center, which is world class. I take them to lunch at one of our amazing ethnic restaurants that we have in town. But then I always drive them to downtown Tampa. And I take them down along the Riverwalk. I drive them by Eulaley's. I take them by the aquarium, the History Center, the Ice Palace, oh, Amalie Arena now. And I show them all of this, not to emphasize Tampa, although it's a great city too, but to tell them you can be 20 minutes away from all of this and live in a city that has better amenities, lower taxes, more sense of community. We have 4th of July parades, we have fireworks, we have all the community things. So the location is huge. We're right next to 2 major interstate systems. You can get to the beach in an hour, you can get to Disney World in an hour, get to Tampa Stadium in 20 minutes, you can get anywhere from here. The other thing that's kind of been mentioned already is culture. And that culture within the city of Temple Terrace is good. It's unique, but it's a great culture. It's diverse. We have people from many different walks of life here, all brushing up against each other, and we all get along and it works. And if you go to the grocery store here, you will know half the people in the store at any given time. So we're not tiny, we're almost 30,000 people, but we're not so big that you don't know your neighbors either, unless you just choose not to. And that goes into the next thing, which is related, and that's community. We have a sense of community. In this city, if somebody's down on their luck, usually people know about it. The neighbors care about other neighbors. They help each other out. People go and clean up yards for elderly people. We have a program here in the city whereby our sanitation workers will actually, if you need it, they will go and take your garbage out of your backyard for you, right? And do that. I don't want to advertise that because now everybody's going, I need it too, right? But we do that kind of stuff. The next thing is the city services and our employees. And I know this sounds, I say this on TV and everybody says, oh, you're always bragging about your employees. But I mean it. I've worked in government since I was 18. So I've worked with a lot of government employees. The employees here are wonderful. These directors are community oriented. They're problem solvers. They strive to not just answer the phone and give the pat answer, but let me solve the problem if I can. And they go out of their way to solve the problem for our residents. You don't get that in other cities, folks. You just don't. And then the last thing I would mention is the amenities. I mentioned our rec center. The golf course is beautiful. Whether you golf or not, it's still a beautiful amenity to have. The trees, the river, those kinds of things. And, this is going to sound bad, but if you're doing a SWOT analysis, if I had to say one of our strengths here is the leadership, too. I think we have a council that functions very well, at least right now. I mean, that can always change, but we have a good council filled with dedicated people who truly strive to do the best thing for the city. We have, at least the interim city manager is incredible. He's awesome. I mean, he really knows what he's doing. He's top notch. We have a world-class city attorney and an assistant city attorney that have 30 years plus experience doing municipal legal services. All of our directors are experts in their fields. Our police department is world-class, top accredited. Our fire department's got the top accreditation that you could get in the United States. Finance gets good. I mean, everything. IT, I could go down the list. all of our directors are world-class. So in terms of strengths, we could go on and on and on. We have a lot of stuff, and you know, this is near and dear to me, and I hear people sometimes say, well, you know, Temple Terrace, we're not gonna be able to get a really world-class city manager because it's just little old Temple Terrace. I'm like, you people are crazy. We're holding a lot of cards here. We're an awesome city. This is a place that everybody wants to move to in Tampa Bay, and we're the gem. We're in the best location in the whole region. That you're crazy. We ought to get a world-class city. I mean, people ought to be fighting to get to this city. And that's how I think about it, so.
Okay.
You see, you got me going. I can't stop. Once I want to make a commercial.
Yeah, and you really put me on the spot. Now you're looking for a world-class.
Yes, we are.
Oh, well, I guess we'll just have to find one. Does anybody want to add anything, or shall I move to the next topic?
How many more of these questions do you have so we can budget our time?
3.
Okay.
2 that'll probably, one, when we get to the ideal manager, that'll probably take some time, but maybe not. Challenges, are there any particular challenges you want the next manager to address?
So we'll do this opposite. Councilmember Abel.
I would say probably the greatest one has to do with the budget, finances, and, you know, upcoming things in future years. That's all for now.
Councilmember Donahue.
Well, I would have said the budget, except that we are in a really great spot right now. So, I mean, managing the federal money coming in and how that happens, we are poised to do that. So what I'm looking for as far as a challenge goes, is being to recreate an atmosphere of trust, and which we needed and we now are looking forward to.
Vice Mayor.
Expecting you, okay. Several challenges. Piggybacking off what Councilman Donahue said, Councilwoman Donahue, the trust has to be reestablished between the citizenry. There were portions of the citizenry that were feeling left out, for lack of a better way to say it, and some of the directors and the administration, and even with the council. Dr. Speen has done a tremendous job in rebuilding and fixing some of that, but we still have a little way to go. And but I think the biggest, that's going to be important. I think the biggest one is the fiscal responsibility. We're good this year. Who knows what's going to happen next year? We need somebody who's strong with the numbers, who understands the budgeting cycle, the fiscal responsibility, the ability to turn on a dime if the markets go bad. We need to be able to respond. That person's going to have to be well-versed in all aspects of budgeting and fiscal management. I think that's the biggest challenge that we have, but the trust issue is going to be important also.
Councilmember Chambers.
Thank you. Again, echoing the budget, that's going to be a big issue. Things are good right now, but you know, it can turn, you know, inflation and stuff, and how we're going to pay for extra gasoline for police and all that. Also, a relationship maker with other entities, whether it's other municipalities or the county, or keep Tampa Bay beautiful. I'm not saying any of them are bad. I'm just saying the relationship maker on that, and a communicator to both staff and our citizens.
That's a good one.
Didn't know if he was caught up. So these are all good, and I concur with everything that everybody has said. We need to restore credibility. We need somebody with good interpersonal skills. I think it's important that this person be experienced and certified as a city manager, not somebody who's going to come in and get certified. in my mind, I'm looking for somebody who can come in like Dr. Spina, and he knows all of these things already. What we don't need, in my opinion, is a change agent. We don't need somebody who goes into a city for 2 or 3 years, fixes a broken culture, makes a bunch of purges of directors to fix things, and then goes to the next city in another 2 years or 3 years. We don't have those problems. We have a good, solid base of employees. Our culture is good internally. Our employees are wonderful. We don't have a lot of broken stuff. I mean, there's always things that can be improved. But in my mind, I'm not looking for an early career city manager who's looking to come to a smaller city and then go to a larger city. In my mind, the perfect candidate is somebody who has already kind of proven themselves and established, and they're looking for a great job to maybe finish their career, not start it. Because somebody who's starting their career is going to look to do bold initiative, make sweeping changes in order to establish themselves as an innovative change agent. And I don't think that's what Temple Terrace needs. But I would echo what we absolutely have to have is somebody who has interpersonal skills and somebody who shows the appropriate respect for that council city manager relationship, because this council deserves to expect to be treated with the respect that's due to the elected council members that sit here. And we all understand the charter very clearly, and there's nobody sitting up here who has any desire to interfere with the operations of the city or the day-to-day. But when we get a complaint from a citizen that needs to be addressed, we cannot be treated defensively or hostilely or like we don't have any business even asking questions. The people elected us to do a job, all of us, and the people expect us to do that job.
Okay. Okay. Now, how much do you want to pay Superman or Superwoman? Or would you like me to
if I might go first on that, I would ask you to, a couple things to consider when you're setting that. I would look at, this is going to be a hard discussion to have here. The previous city manager's salary, you should need to recall that prior to him serving as city manager, he had been with the city for 16, 18 years before his appointment to city manager. So some of his starting salary in his first contract, he wasn't hired off the street. So you have to remember that he was a long-serving director-level employee prior to that. The other thing I'd look at is that some of our, obviously they have to make more than their subordinates, and some of our top subordinates I would gauge by that. The other thing is I would look at, I think it's important that this person has an upward trajectory, and we won't bring them in at bargain basement prices, but they're going to expect an increase when their contract renews, and we need to have some wiggle room to do that too. But we're not, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if we need to go down the dais with this one, but we're not necessarily looking for bargain basement. That's not what we want. But, we're not hiring the CEO of Twitter either, so.
You should say that one.
So does that, yeah, Councilmember Abel.
Well, I was going to actually comment on something before the paying question, because I think we sort of merged two questions together, unless I missed one being asked. But you had asked what challenges the city manager will face, and we sort of delved into the characteristics.
We shifted about midway through. You're
Yeah, we
quite
did.
correct.
That's what I thought.
My apologies. I should have gone back.
That's all right. I just wanted to add the terms even-keeled and good listener to the description, because those are the things that I wrote down as very important to me. But in terms of payment, I'd like to look at what other communities of our size have as a salary range for this position. And I think that would help me have a better idea about what would be appropriate. And as Mayor Ross said, I wouldn't really base it off of what the previous city manager made because of the circumstances that he described his long-term employment with the city prior. So that's my thoughts on that.
Anybody else? We need to go down to dais on this one?
Nothing new.
Sherry?
No, I have nothing on the salary. I agree with you that we can't just go back and reflect on what the last city manager was making. That doesn't work here.
Right.
Okay, well, I'll put something together probably by Friday or sometime on Friday that compares salaries around the state for cities that are of a similar size and, you know, in a metropolitan area, so that you have an idea what you can expect. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add to the ideal candidate, the characteristics? We did transition. Yes.
Councilmember Donahue?
I kind of feel like we're speed dating, and since I've been married for 52 years, I don't know how to date, so I don't know how this game is played. What we need is someone who recognizes just the importance. You know, our organizational chart says that our citizens are at the top. And then we have, you know, council and, typical organizational chart. But we need to put that into motion because the citizens believe that, we believe that, and we need the city manager to believe that when the managers of all of those service providers, they're sitting in here tonight, that they're doing a good job and not assume that they're not, okay? And I love what you said about a change agent. We're not looking for that at all. We feel confident in the people we have here, and absolutely everyone needs management, but they also need feedback, which is something they were not getting. They need evaluations. They need the ability to put new ideas into place. In other words, a listener, which is what made me think that I was in a speed dating situation, because, you know, what are we all looking for? A good listener, somebody with a good sense of humor. I mean, how many times have you heard that on TV, right? Oh, yeah, that's the guy. So, yeah, we're looking for the perfect person. I teased you before because I said we're looking for a clone of Dr. Spina. But no joke, look closely at what Dr. Spina has done. He's given all of our directors the ability to come to him if they have a problem, but to go back out there every morning and do their jobs, which they're doing admirably. So, you know, I'm not trying to talk just for talking, but you're the expert on this, and I don't think you're going to bring us a newbie or somebody who doesn't have the credentials and the skills to appreciate what they have. And I will add one more thing. I hope they like living in Temple Terrace because we expect them to live here.
Okay. All right.
Can I add one more
Sure.
thing to this? It doesn't really fit into one of your questions, but I think it needs to be brought up, particularly for input. Councilmember Donahue just alluded to our charter that requires our 3 charter officers to live within the city of Temple Terrace. Our other 2 charter officers, the city clerk and the city attorney, both do live within the city of Temple Terrace. The previous city manager, because he was already an employee and resided outside the city, we didn't make him move when we offered him the job. I think the sentiment among the council and in the community is that the new hired city manager would be expected to comply with the charter. However, and we have had some informal discussions, however, I also think it's reasonable with the housing market being what it is right now, that we may have to provide some time for that person, depending on where they're coming from, to acquire a home here if they're coming from somewhere else. Because, I mean, I don't know what the market is right today, but I mean, month or so ago, there were only 11 homes available for sale in Temple Terrace, so they may not be able to find anything.
We have that leeway.
So we're gonna, I just want to say that when you're talking to candidates about that, we do expect them to move here, but we are probably willing to discuss a time frame for that to happen.
Or they can move into Waverly Terrace.
Okay.
Anything else, Council?
Do you have any questions for me?
No, I don't. I think you're
Good, thank you.
All right. Very good. Well, thank you. Appreciate your time and your input, and we'll have a draft of this for you to look at, I think, next week sometime. And then we'll, in the meantime, we'll start thinking about who we can find that fits your criteria and go to town looking for people.
very good.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much, sir.
And I'm going to resign as interim city manager now.
Hopefully you're the only one that does that. Assistant Finance Director Jim Ingram is now going to provide us with a presentation on the Clear Gov Software application. Welcome, Mr. Ingram.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Ross, City Council. Tonight, we're not looking for a decision, but discussion and direction concerning adding enhanced budget software for not this budget we're working on now, but next year, for next year's budget. Originally, we thought there would be advantages in implementing new software before October 1 so we could do some testing. But we think it is better to take our time, explore our options, and do an RFP. So tonight, we want to show you one of these options as an example of the kind of enhancements for budgeting, financial reporting, and transparency to get your thoughts. This would replace what we currently have as Cognos DM. It works in conjunction with our Naviline financial software. It's functional, but very cumbersome and limited in what we can create, particularly when it comes to transparency and ease of use and visibility for not only council, but the citizens. So I'm going to go through and just give you a few look-sees at what kind of functionality all of these different options have. Again, looking at the ClearGov option, but there are similar products on the market, and they all pretty much have the same approach in that you can access it through your website. You can access budget inputting, which is what this first screen is. This is an example of the budget builder that city staff can use to enter their budgets. It's much more user-friendly. It's got drop-down menus, graphs, easy to customize displays. You can create columns for the department requests, the city manager requests, the final council approved budget, plus the things that we normally do the past fiscal years. And you can see that it has like bar charts showing previous fiscal years. And so that a lot of cool features. You can also, in addition to having a printed version, we have a print version of the budget. This is also housed on our website. It's a PDF document that you have to scroll through to find stuff. With an enhanced budget software like ClearGov, as you see here, it's accessible through our It would be accessible through our website. You would have drop-down menus if you want to take a look at a department's budget. You click on department, you drop down to that department. There, you see up here on the screen, you have budget summaries, capital improvements, debt. This can show you a quick snapshot. It can give you a 6-year graph and an option to view further breakdown of detailed expenditures. And that's what we're looking at right here. Here's 2 departments listed. Finance and administration gives you the total expenditure cost. Because we're under expenditures, you can move over and click under revenues if you want to. Demographics as well. And there's that 6-year chart to the right showing what the budget has been. You can also show actuals. It's very customizable. And I think all of these products are similar. Here's an example of a CIP request for capital improvement programs. In this example, you see recreation request, and any one of those request projects in the blue, you see the cost at the end has a beginning of a description. If you click those on, you can get a full page of the whole project. Very much like what we have in our capital budget book now, where you have a picture of the project, you have a description of the costs, and so forth. It also has a feature called Open Checkbook. Now you're really talking about accountability and transparency. You can put your AP data on your website. You can even do payroll, even though that's just an option. You may not want to do that. You may not want to put names up there, but you can at least put some data about what the city is spending money on and who they're paying and the amount and a description. It also has very nice demographic snapshots, which are a lot easier to look at than looking at a budget book or scrolling through a PDF. Things like median home value. Of course, these figures have to be updated, as we do in our budget book every year. Now, what about the cost? This is why we're bringing it to you now, to get input. With ClearGov, we decided against option 1, which would have started June 1. So we're looking at October 1st. With ClearGov, we're talking about a $28,000 increase in what we're spending now for Cognos DM. And Cognos DM, quite frankly, isn't working very well. So this is an investment. It's something we need to consider cost-wise. We are looking at some other options, and we may find some options. I think we may have just looked at one that's a little cheaper, and we might get more bang for our buck. But the bottom line is that, here's a couple of quotes. We have reached out to some people. We've reached out to the city of Cocoa. The deputy finance director there said, this is really easy to use and navigate. So obviously, as a finance person who painstakingly puts budgets together every year, we love it. It should increase our efficiency greatly. But more importantly, I think it provides a level of transparency we've not had before. We haven't had this ability. But again, since it is a significant expenditure increase in the budget, we are soliciting your thoughts, your direction, before we go any further, before we, get to June, at the end of June, when we come before you with the budget. This would be a IT expenditure as software. Again, we know of at least 2 separate similar products that are tailor-made. These are tailor-made for local governments. That's basically all they do. So, the question is, is this something you would like us to look further into, to pursue? And if you have any questions, I'm ready to try to answer them.
Vice Mayor?
I've seen some of this presentation before, and I can't remember why, but other than the fact that we know we have a problem. Navient, which is our underlying core software?
Navaline.
Navaline, okay.
Our base financial shell.
Is that changing?
No.
Okay, one of these, I believe, was not being supported anymore. Was it?
That's the one we're trying to get away from, Cognos DM.
Okay, so you have it listed in here, but it's not being supported. That it's not being updated, and we're not getting any more out of it. Just for council's edification, we did this about 3 or 4 years ago, where we updated the Cognos software to help with the transparency. But Cognos is not being supported anymore. I think that's an important distinction that you need to make. Unless I think we should, personally, I think we should move forward with it, but that may not be the proper time to discuss it. I know there's probably other questions, but keep in mind that the Cognos is dying slowly. So it's
without the support, it is very hard to use, and just simple things like formatting your book takes a lot of time.
Okay.
Dr. Spina?
Yes, originally this came forward as a request to maybe consider the ClearGov product itself. And in looking at that and other products, they realized in finance that there are options out there in addition to ClearGov, and they would probably like to go out to bid, but they wanted to make sure that this is kind of a cloud-based program, and that if you support the idea and the concept of it, then they'll probably go out to bid and come back, and it would be something that would be done for the next fiscal year. Originally, they were going to try to do it and start it June 1st, so they could try to get used to it and get some of the kinks out of it and be ready for October 1st. But because there's other products there, they thought it'd be better to study them further and then go out to bid. But they're just really seeking your concurrence on this type of product. Am I right?
Yes.
So what you need from us is not to scream when you put this in the budget as a placeholder for you to go out to RFP. Okay. So I think most of us know that you've needed budget software. I do have a quick question, and so we can move on. Is this just budget software, or does this encompass like utility payments and is this all integrated with all aspects of finance, or is this just budget?
No, it's not. It doesn't handle utility payments. That's another type of functionality. It does. ClearGov, as we've discovered, only handles budget and the transparency tool, and you can also do quarterly reports, that kind of thing. It does not do the ACFR, which we used to call it a different name, but the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. We have some different options with that. We are looking at another product similar to ClearGov that does do the ACFR in a very similar fashion that it does the budget. So that would be a possibility.
Okay.
So when we see this in the budget, we'll know what it's about.
Right, and it's, the ACFR is
Yeah,
kind of the auditing tool side of it.
Okay, let's not get too deep into the speculative. Okay, we good?
Yeah, I am good, because I think what you're asking us to do is to give you the nod to take this albatross from around your neck. Because every time we ask you to make corrections or we ask questions about specific budget items, it takes a day or two for you to be able to get back to us.
So all he's
That
looking
has
for
been-
is a nod that
So
we,
I think you're getting the nod here.
okay, he's getting the nod. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Next item of business is a Board of Adjustment appointment. There are 2 vacancies on the Board of Adjustment for a term extending from May 17th, 2022 until May 17th, 2025. City received 3 applicants for 2 positions. The 3 applicants are from Eric Kravitz, Annette Rennie, and Craig Wells. I don't know if all 3 of them are here. I know a couple of them are here. We will go in order that it's on the agenda. If you'd like to come up and introduce yourself and say a few words, I would ask you to be cognizant of the fact that it's 20 minutes to 8, so please try to be brief. Eric Kravitz, Mr. Kravitz. You don't have to, it's up to you. If you want to say a few words, you're welcome.
Try to re-earn my reputation for concision. Thank you.
Welcome, sir.
So thank you very much for the opportunity. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I've experienced code and enforcement and zoning from both sides, both as someone who's trying to conform with it and as someone who's been a victim of it not being properly applied. So I've seen both sides of that coin. And suffice to say, I see the importance of a level playing field for everyone. And so far, I've been very impressed in Temple Terrace with the rigor of the permits and the record keeping, and I think that's very admirable, and I'd like to see that continue. But at the same time, one can't lose sight of the fact that occasionally there are hardships, and that sometimes a too rigorous enforcement can lead to negative outcomes for people. And in that respect, construction's always been really exciting for me, and I've been involved in a great number of projects, as I outlined briefly in my application. And what I always try to keep in mind is that there are, at the end of the day, people who are affected by all of these steps that we take, and that construction as such is for the people, and that it's also something that we all have to live with. So that would be my brief statement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kravitz. Ms. Rennie? How about Mr. Wells? Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm Craig Wells. I live at 12207 Brightwater Boulevard. Had the privilege of living in the city of Temple Terrace with my wife for 6.5 years now. It's a great city. I appreciate everything you said, Mr. Mayor. I've also had the privilege of serving on the Board of Adjustment for 1 term. Service has always been very, very important to me before moving to Florida. Boy, it's been 18 years already. I served on the Grand Traverse County Construction Board of Appeals in Michigan. I spent 11 years in the Navy, 6 years active, 5 years in the reserves. Professionally, for the past 29 years, I've been a professional civil engineer. I work with water and wastewater utilities. I'm also an Envision certified sustainability professional, so I know all about building things and permits and codes and all that. That's all I deal with all day long professionally. I also lead our company's climate resilience practice, and I would appreciate an opportunity to continue my service to the community in my free time by being appointed to the board again. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Wells. Council members, you have actually we have 2. I'm assuming the second one is in case we have a tie like we did last time. Came prepared this time. Our city clerk is on the ball. So we, if you would, please vote for 2. Pass your ballots down. We need that game show music.
Yeah.
So I would, while the city clerk is tabulating these, I would like to say to all 3 applicants that we very much appreciate all 3 of your willingness to serve the city. Obviously, there are 2 current vacancies, but, and we can only have 2 people, but we
very much value all three of you and are grateful for your willingness to serve. And stick around because we will put everybody to work. Yes.
We do have a tie
Oh, no.
for the second position. So Eric Kravitz received 3 votes, Annette Rennie received 3 votes, and Craig Wells received 4 votes. Do you want me to read who voted for each one? Yes, it's got to be public. Mayor Ross voted for Annette Rennie and Craig Wells. Councilmember Donahue voted for Eric Kravitz and Craig Wells. Councilmember Abel voted for Eric Kravitz and Craig Wells. Vice Mayor Schisler voted for Eric Kravitz and Annette Rennie. And Councilmember Chambers voted for Annette Rennie and Craig Wells.
So the runoff is between two, which two?
Eric and Annette.
Okay, so we have the second ballots.
I think you jinxed us by making the second copy. But after last time, I don't blame you.
On the ball this time, I give her
Yeah,
credit.
I tell you.
I give her credit.
It only took one time to figure that one out.
Last time, I remember tap dancing up here for trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
We have 3 votes for Annette Rennie and 2 for Eric. The 3 for Annette were from Mayor Ross, Vice Mayor Schisler, and Councilmember Chambers.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve the appointment of Mr. Wells and Mrs. Rennie as members of the Board of Adjustment for terms extending from May 17th, 2022 to May 17th, 2025?
I move to approve the appointments as listed by the city clerk.
Second.
Motion to second, discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor signify.
Congratulations.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, can we get one more thing done? Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the May 3rd City Council meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Corrections to the minutes? If not, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No nays. The minutes are approved. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to stand in recess until,
Oh,
5
wait, we have-
minutes. No?
You sure?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
5 minutes. We'll take a 5-minute recess.
Yes.
Patiently, it's the people who are trying to give us money that we keep waiting. Right? You want it? Yeah. Okay, close the watertight doors here. So thank you very much for your patience. Next item on the agenda are persons wishing to be heard on items not listed on the agenda or items on the consent agenda. 3-minute time limit is imposed on all members, all comments from the public, and we do ask that speakers approach the podium, state their name and city of residence. I do like to assure everybody that during public comment, city manager, your elected officials, and your directors in attendance do take your comments seriously, and we do follow up. I only see a few people left in the gallery, and I currently have no requests to address the council. Are there members of the public who wish to address the council at this time? Very good. If I may be indulged.
He is here, though, in 8A. 8A is, somebody is here. Also,
Resolution, okay. Dr. Spina will explain a resolution recognizing the appointment of Dr. Thomas Smith to the city's Auditor Selection Committee. Dr. Spina.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. It's recommended that City Council adopt a resolution recognizing the appointment of Dr. Thomas Smith to serve as city resident with financial accounting experience on the city's Auditor Selection Committee. And Dr. Smith is here if you'd like to meet you. Would you like to say anything?
Dr. Smith, would you like to introduce yourself? Welcome, sir. Thank you for your patience tonight.
Thank you, Council. I'm Tom Smith. My wife and myself and our 2 kids live here in Temple Terrace. We've been here for, I guess, 8 years now, and it's been kind of interesting listening to you go around talking to the gentleman who's going to help try to find you a new manager. There's a lot of passion in the council, and I'm hoping that I can contribute and try to help out in any way that I can. Looking to serve. I'm a newly promoted associate professor at University of South Florida, so we'll be here for a while. We're not going anywhere, so I'm looking forward to helping any way I can. And anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Nice to meet you.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Smith, and congratulations. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? If not, council members, any questions for Dr. Spina?
No.
Okay. Is there a motion to recognize the appointment of Dr. Thomas Smith to serve as the city resident with funding or accounting experience on the city's Auditor Selection Committee?
I move to approve.
Second.
Councilmember Abel made a motion. I believe the vice mayor made a second. Is there discussion on the motion? Yep. Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No nays. Resolution is adopted. Dr. Smith, thank you so much. Appreciate all your assistance. Next item is a resolution recognizing the reappointment of Peter Steffens,
Yes.
Certified Public Accountant to the city's Auditor Selection Committee. Dr. Spina will explain.
It is recommended that City Council adopt a resolution recognizing Peter Steffens as a certified public accountant on the city's Auditor Selection Committee.
Good. I do not see Mr. Steffens here. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Seeing none, council members, any questions for Dr. Spina? Is there a motion recognizing the reappointment?
Move to approve the resolution recognizing the reappointment of Peter Steffens to the CPA.
Second. Motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No nays. Resolution is adopted. Next item is a resolution accepting a donation of $40,000 from Buddy Baseball Incorporated. Leisure Services Director Carl Langfeld is here to explain. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. Tonight seems to have been a good news type of meeting, and I am honored to be able to continue that good news and request a resolution to accept a donation of $40,000 from Buddy Baseball, Inc. for the purchase of some shade structure and associated amenities to be built out at the Buddy Baseball fields behind Lewis Elementary School. I could go on and talk about the efforts that brought about this $40,000, but I think that would be more appropriate for Mr. Ross Overbreckling, head of Buddy Baseball, to do. So I will yield to him.
Very good. Thank you, Carl, and welcome. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much. We are very pleased to present a donation from our supporters to make a shelter for Buddy Baseball. We have a check in here for you tonight And as far as Temple Terrace, we have some of our board members here in a volunteer, all Temple Terrace members. I'm new to town. I've only been here for 38 years, but Buddy Baseball has been around for 14. We just finished our 25th season. And after the games every week, there's always, birthdays going on, and we think we just need a nice gathering spot for all of our people that want to do something after the games. A lot of times parents will bring donuts or cupcakes or cookies, and it's very inconvenient to pass these out through the bleachers and through the dugouts. It's just too busy. Our board members unanimously said, let's go ahead and do this, and we have some fantastic supporters to help pay for this. But Buddy Baseball is all about inclusion, being accepted, a sense of community, having fun. And what's better than having fun with a birthday party, at the baseball field? So we're looking forward to having this go on. The shelter itself will have 2 picnic tables. One will be an ADA compliant. We'll have a wastebasket, electricity, and a wheelchair accessible sidewalk that goes along to it. But we're just very looking forward to having this. We need your approval to go along to the school board for their approval. We hope to have this completed by the fall season. So thank you very much for your support. We're all about Temple Terrace. As soon as you walk into the baseball fields, we have that logo, that Temple Terrace sign right there as you walk in, along with its Parks and Rec sign. So you're right there in front of us as soon as everybody comes walking in. And we're trying to make improvements to our league because it grows every year. And we started to do something as best we can, and we're looking really forward to this, and I can't wait to have it done and have you guys all out.
Very good.
Any questions for me?
Well, good. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Don't go too far, because assuming this passes, we're going to want a photograph. So we're going to want you guys to take a photograph with Mr. Langfeld. So are there members of the public in existence? There are no members of the public. Are there members of the public who wish to come in on this item? Seeing none, council members, questions?
None at all.
Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move to approve the donation of $40,000 from Buddy Baseball to the Parks and Rec Center.
Second.
Motion, and I think Mr. Chambers had the second. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No nays? The resolution is adopted. Thank you so much. I think you guys should get a picture of this. Carl, line up here and accept their check.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much. Next item.
I apologize for not listing Buddy Baseball when I was talking about all the good things about Temple Terrace.
Next item is a resolution approving the purchase of a 16-foot by 20-foot shelter from Top Line Recreation in one hand and right out the other. Director Langfeld is here to explain.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. That $40,000 was short-lived. I come to you requesting a resolution to approve the purchase of a 16-foot by 20-foot shelter from Top Line Recreation in the amount of $34,029. Funding for this project will be from the $40,000 donation received from Buddy Baseball. The shelter is being constructed at the Buddy Baseball fields behind Lewis Elementary School, so that brings some complications to the process. The shelter will be built on Hillsborough County School Board property, so the process for construction is a little bit more complicated than if we just wanted to build a shelter at the rec center, because things have to go through review and permitting through the school board instead of through the city's building department. So once we have this approved, the process changes a little bit, where construction documents need to go to Hillsborough County School Board for their review and approval, and that can be, as James can attest, sometimes an arduous process. I have sent preliminary documents to the school board. They have reviewed them, given us the approval to move forward to the next step, which is here, and then from here we move forward with getting them the actual construction documents for review and approval. But First step is getting the purchase from Top Line Recreation approved in the amount of $34,029.81. The remaining funds from the $40,000 purchase will be used to purchase those picnic tables, amenities for the shelter as Russ had described. I stand for any questions you may have.
Good, thank you. Carl, are there members of the public who wish to comment on this? No. Council member questions? Councilmember Chambers?
The electric service that Buddy Baseball mentioned, will that just come off the concession stands?
That will come off the existing service that is at the location. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Maybe
Vice
not
Mayor.
a question, but if you need help with the school district, the mayor's he's in with the superintendent, they're tight.
It won't get by permitting.
It won't get by permit.
Been hanging around the buses too long.
Maybe, that may be.
Absolutely.
Council members, other questions? If not, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No nays. Resolution is adopted. Thank you, Mr. Lingfield. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing and first reading of an ordinance amending the code by enacting a new section 2-84 in Chapter 2 entitled Complaints Against the Charter Officer. I will open the public hearing and ask the city attorney to explain.
At the February 15th, 2022 meeting, City Council had directed my office to look into what other municipalities that had our same form of government did with regard to complaints of wrongdoing made against the charter officers. And we had some interesting discussion with City of Treasure Island, City of Plant City, City of Ocala. I had put in a call to Clearwater, but have not heard back from them. Interestingly enough, the ones that we ended up contacting really had nothing to offer to us. They had nothing in writing dealing with this issue either. So I didn't feel bad that we didn't have anything. It seems like something that is not really, until you have an issue, it doesn't seem to be thought about much. And several years ago, I had worked with Janet Bledsoe, of our HR director, with regard to at least developing a process if there was a complaint of harassment or discrimination made against one of the charter officers, because we had a procedure as to where it would go if it was against a director, an employee. It would go up the chain and end with the city manager. But if it was made against the city manager, then what happens? So we had drafted something then, and it was adopted and made part of our procedures. However, not everything amounts to discrimination or harassment. There are other things that would be considered wrongdoing, and I think that the concern of council is that you have the ability to act quickly in the event that some evidence is suddenly presented or a serious allegation is made, and action can be taken to protect the city's security and to protect the city in general, while council is now being gathered together as in a special meeting. And that's really what I got from these other cities. It was pretty much, well, I think we'd call a special meeting, you know, and I got the impression that I was making them think of this for the first time too. And it's, oh, we would call a special meeting. And I said, well, how long do you think that's going to take? And the consensus really is that you've got to give notice of the special meeting, and it's probably at least 3 days to give a proper notice of a meeting. So what do you do during the 3 days? And so what we did is we drafted a proposed section to be added to to Chapter 2, Article 3, Division 2, which was titled Specific Offices. And this section that we have created is called Complaints Against a Charter Officer. You have the ordinance that was attached to the agenda, and then the attachment to the ordinance was the new section of code that was drafted. So, you know, I'm here to basically to hear what your thoughts are on it. If it meets your approval, then it's here for you to vote on today as a first reading. I know there hasn't been a lot of, I don't think there's really been a whole lot of discussion other than at the meeting of February 15th when I received the direction and I think maybe I might have done more than I was asked for, because when I went back and looked at the minutes, it was to find out what other cities had. I went ahead and Ernie and I both drafted this together, and we created something to bring to you so that you'd have something to consider.
Thank you, Mr. Schoen. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this? Seeing none. Council member questions. Council member questions.
I have no questions. I will have a comment.
Okay, if there are no questions, I'll close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, amending the Temple Terrace Code of Ordinances by enacting a new section 2-84 in Chapter 2, Article 3, Division 2, Specific Offices, entitled Complaints Against a Charter Officer, providing for the severability, providing for codification, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing an effective date.
Good. Councilmember Donahue.
I think we've positioned ourselves, and now knowing, I was thinking that we were taking care, we were kind of tying up loose ends, and now hearing that we may have helped other cities do the same thing. I just want to comment on the way this was written. It's clear and concise and gives step by step. I mean, even the sentence that says, if the mayor exercises this authority, he shall immediately notify the city council of the circumstances. So I just want to tell you, I appreciate the work you did on this, and thank you.
Council members, comments? If there are no more comments, is there a motion?
I move to approve the ordinance as prepared and presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there?
Could I interject one thing?
Yes, ma'am.
I might ask for a slight amendment to that motion.
Okay.
In reviewing this again tonight, I see that there is a typographical error in the attachment at subsection B. The word "a" should not be in there right before the word charter, I believe. Yes. And it says conduct of a charter officers. It should be of charter officers.
Okay.
So if the motion could include the correction of that typographical error.
I move to approve.
It'd probably be best to withdraw
Let me just withdraw the whole thing.
withdraw the motion, start over.
Yeah, that would be fine.
Okay. I withdraw the motion.
I withdraw my second.
There we go.
Okay. I move to approve the first reading of the ordinance amending the code as corrected by enacting a new section 2-84 of Chapter 2 entitled Complaints Against a Charter Officer.
We have a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? No nays. Resolution ordinance is adopted on first reading. Will appear for a second reading and public hearing on Tuesday, June the 7th, 2022. Thank you, Mr. Schoen. New business and board reports. I believe Vice Mayor Schistler had some.
Yeah, something is, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we get ready to do the.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I crossed out what was under council business and I wound up skipping the whole section. Or, I'm sorry to interrupt you, is there any other council business carryover from other meetings? I'm sorry, now.
No, that's fine.
Vice
It could
Mayor.
even be council business. As we get ready to start into the budget cycle, our budget review, last year, we had talked about Uptown Innovation Alliance, I'm sorry, not Uptown, Innovation Alliance and so forth. And I had indicated that I was having difficulty in securing their tax documents. And I'm still having a problem doing it. You had indicated, Ms. Donahue, that you would possibly be able to secure those for us?
Yeah.
Have you had any luck with that?
They've been under a reorganization, but I will go back and request those again. I just dropped it.
Because the last time I saw it, last thing I have is 2017.
Oh, okay.
So there's, yeah, and even
And
that's.
what is it that you,
IRS,
what,
so.
and what would you like? So I want to make sure I ask.
Form 990,
Form 990?
Form 990, for whatever, anything after 2017.
Okay.
I just want to be able to
Mhm.
to look at a couple of bits and pieces.
Okay.
Did you
Okay.
get to anything since 2017 part?
Yeah, 2017, I was 15, 16, 17,
That's when he had them. So you want 18?
18, 19, 20,
Yeah.
21 if it's ready.
Okay.
Cool, thank you. That's all I had. Just so we can talk about it when we.
Okay.
Other new business board reports? Anybody?
I have a comment, but it's not new business.
Well, go ahead, Councilman.
Okay, well, my comment is, it was a long day, starting with us at 4:30, but what a wonderful afternoon and evening. We've had a great meeting, and thank you, staff, for coming early and staying late, and thank you to the public. So thank you, staff. Anyway, but I appreciate you a lot. It was just a great meeting we had tonight.
But thank you. Other new business? I do have one quick thing, and if this is deserving of longer conversation, we can postpone it till the next meeting, so just tell me that. We've had discussion, I know some of our staff has too, I just don't want to go too far with this without talking to you about new council member orientation. We have an upcoming election this fall, and I would like to continue to work with staff to establish a new council member orientation with the, kind of formalize this process with an agenda, some training, and a set program to go through. But I don't want to take up the city clerk and the city attorney, city manager's time with this if you guys aren't. It's not really controversial, but if you're.
Well, we had, if I may.
Yeah.
You know, when James and I came up here, we had a formal presentation. You weren't a newbie. So
No, I had one too. I had Jerry Sieber.
Back in 16. Yeah, well,
No, 16, I didn't never get one.
In 14, when I came on board, Jerry Sieber, I think that's what year I came on board. Seems like, I don't know.
Oh,
how long.
14, yeah.
Yeah. Jerry Sieber not only took me through the workings of the dais, but took me on a tour of the city to show me the skeletons, which is.
We had a partial one.
Right, and as department head, we used to have time where we met with all the new council in regards, so we've had that, so my answer would be yes, please move forward with
Just
it.
resurrected,
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have that?
I requested a tour and had a tour, but in terms of any training or anything, no, I didn't.
Yeah,
I know we met Mrs. Schoen and everything else. She spoke to us.
Yeah,
and
in 2016, I didn't get anything.
Nothing.
No, nothing. I didn't get a
18 we
tour.
did.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
you guys are okay with us moving forward with that? Okay, that's what I needed. No, thank you. That's all I have. Any other new business,
I
council?
just had some kudos to pass out.
Okay.
Recently, it was discovered that there was a hawk family living at the Woodmont Park. And there's a gorgeous nest, very, very top of a tall tree. But the hawk, the phrase, watch you like a hawk, it takes on a new meaning when you see that all you have to do is walk in the park and that hawk makes himself obvious. And so I contacted Mr. Langfeld, and he immediately went through the proper procedures because hawks are protected. The nest is protected. There's no moving it out of the way. You have to leave it there. And so a sign went up within what, Mr. Langfeld, 2 days? I mean, it was fast. He took care of it right away. The signs are there for people to see. I will tell you, all my volunteers working in the park are wearing a hat now. So that, but I just want to thank you for your rapid response and for doing it as appropriate, as it should have been done. So thank you very much.
Thank you, council member. Anything else under new business? Board reports, city manager.
About a dozen things for you.
And they're all long, right?
Go for it.
I have a couple things.
Okay.
First, I'd like to just let you know that the report that you received on that sold Temple Terrace, and the brochure that was given to you was actually done by Lori.
Oh,
It wasn't done by
Yes.
Basinger, so. I'd
Thank
like
you.
to
Good
know
job,
that.
Lori.
Good job.
Second, we have been getting contacts about allowing electric scooters in town. And I just wanted to get an idea of you of what you thought. From a staff level, we're thinking we're not quite ready probably in terms of sidewalks and access. But if you want us to explore the possibility, we will. If you think we should wait a little bit, we will.
Police chief would like to comment on this. Chief Albano.
I know what I'm going to say to you, council, and Mr. Mayor. You're going to remember that we had this conversation. I'm sorry I didn't know I could have spoke to you about it, but we had this conversation. We had some presentations, and council actually decided that no, we were not ready for that. But if you choose to revisit it, I can bring you a host of issues from Tampa and some other cities that would support the position that I shared with you before, which is, please no.
I don't think it fits.
So and I shared this privately with Dr. Spina one-on-one, is I was opposed to this idea when it came to us before, because I don't think our streets and sidewalks are conducive to this, at least not yet. Now, we're working to improve some of that, and there may come a time when that changes, and we have adequate sidewalks and streets that, I don't know about streets, but sidewalks. But our sidewalks are very narrow. I just, in my opinion, this is not something that I would like to revisit. And I'm not saying, in my opinion, that I would never entertain it. I just think that some of our multimodal improvements that we're working to get need to be achieved before this makes sense. That's just my take.
Just keep in mind that you can restrict where scooters go. So you don't have to make it a citywide project. So I agree with you. We should look at it, give it some more time to look at. But having something perhaps just and I wouldn't even say in the CRA, maybe in the downtown being the designation. And I mean, it'd have to be configured. Because I agree with Chief, we're not ready for scooters on the street. We can barely handle bicycles. So I mean, I wanted us to look into it years ago, and we did, and we weren't ready. We just didn't have the safety features behind it. So, but I mean, looking at it now is premature. I agree.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. I remember the discussions we had, and I spent enough time down in Ybor with Hart and everything to see them laying in the heap on the corner, and they're laying in the street. But Tampa is a square city. We're linear. And to go from here to there, you're not getting anything, up and down 56th Street or up and down Bullard Parkway. Outside of the CRA, no, when last time we got to the CRA, it wasn't built yet. Outside the CRA, I don't see where it's going to be of any benefit to anybody. You're going to go from Rock and Crab down to Winn-Dixie. Okay, that's a 30-second walk. So I mean, I don't see where it makes sense for our layout of the city, unless you're going to be in your front yard. They're going to be, I don't know. I just don't see the need for it at this point.
All right, thank you. Second item I have is.
Any other comments on this?
No.
Okay, Doctor. That's all right.
Second item, we have tentatively scheduled a town hall for next Tuesday. We don't have really any agenda items. I'd like to ask to postpone it, if that's possible.
Do we have
What was the initial?
weren't we going to talk about the CLG? I thought this was a town hall.
Certified local government?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we were going to invite people and whatever. I agree on the postponement.
The primary purpose of this meeting when we set it was for people to be introduced to you. And normally, we kind of take the focal point of a town hall meeting. People come and talk to us and ask questions. Our idea for this one was that they, will be there, but that the focus would be on you rather than us. So if you want to postpone it,
I agree.
we haven't had a whole lot of public outcry where
another
people
night
say
to
we don't
think
know
like
what's
this.
going on, so.
Coyotes have been quiet, so.
I think we'll probably leave that up to you at this point, Doctor. That's,
We'll get with you on another date.
okay.
We don't want to do a song and dance and show everybody good job.
Weren't we talking about a CLG workshop, though?
Yeah, we're gonna do that in the summer.
Okay,
Historic preservation in the CLG.
okay, good.
Certified
Okay.
local government. Okay, and lastly, I just want to let you know or remind you that the natural gas line pipeline test begins next Monday it'll be along Fowler Avenue from midnight to 4 a.m. So if anybody asks, if the test doesn't pass, they'll do it again. So just FYI. All right, thank you.
Thank you, City Attorney.
All I have is that I have made contact with Dr. Patel's attorney, and that's it. So we have talked.
Who is the attorney?
I can't think of his name right now. I talked to him right after the meeting, so. Was Greg here? Do you remember? He doesn't remember either. So, but contact has been made, and we'll move forward with that as soon as possible.
Very good, thank you. I just have one quick thing I want to mention because I know we're running late, and that is, Lori, I on behalf of Chief Albano and Chief Kemp and Assistant Fire Chief Seaman, I want to thank you for what you did for these kids, for Corpus Christi School. This is a huge impression on those kids that they will probably never forget. And so, you know, the poor kid may become a firefighter out of this whole thing, which is, but I want to thank you because, you know, for us, it was a lot of fun today. Everybody, you know, had a good time, and, you know, we had pizza and everything went well, but we know, but this was a tremendous amount of work that she put together these swag baskets that were on display for the silent auction. She wrapped the whole thing up. She went scavenging around trying to get stuff she really put a tremendous amount of effort into this. And as a result, we raised almost $1,000 for Corpus Christi Catholic School. And even more importantly is the impression that we made on those kids and their families. So, you know, that's the stuff when he's asking, you know, what makes Temple Terrace special? Well, it's no one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's this. This is what makes us different, right? This is what makes us special. So thank you. None of this could have happened without you, Lori, so thank you so much.
Did you make the uniform too?
Yeah.
Did you make the police uniform?
No, that was the police chief trying to outdo the fire chief and then throw the gauntlet down for me.
Where'd the bunker coat come from? Did you have a little one for him? No. No? Okay.
She did get the gavel, though. Thank you for that, because I got nothing. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We're adjourned.
Thank you. Sir.